Happening now on Grid Tonight. Formula E drivers sent a letter to the FIA. What issues do they want resolved, and could there be consequences? Daniel Dye was suspended indefinitely by NASCAR and Kaulig Racing after mocking IndyCar driver David Malukas. What did Dye say about the IndyCar driver that got him into big trouble? World Rally Championship is coming back to the United Kingdom. What should we expect next year in Scotland? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambeth with Mayor Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. And if my voice sounds funny tonight, I've been battling the cold since Monday night, so I'll do my best to make it through tonight's show. And throughout the show, be sure to leave your comments and questions in the chat for us to display, and visit gridnetworktv.com for our latest content. Before we start tonight's show, as y'all know here stateside, it's time for March Madness, so feel free to join the Grid Network groups and compete against members of our team in the ESPN tournament challenge, in the ESPN tournament bracket challenge. And check out the two links in the video description below to join our groups for the men's and women's NCAA tournament. And make sure you're locking your brackets by Thursday at noon Eastern and see if you can be members of the Grid Network team. Now, Josh, take it away with our top story this evening.
Evening, Kobe. Well, if anybody knows, battling illness, it's, I've been hit with it a couple of times in the last couple of weeks. So I really hope you're feeling better soon, mate. And just take it easy. We've got your back. Don't worry. Evening, Matt. Nice to see you again. Have we both had haircuts?
We both, I think, well, I certainly have.
I have had a haircut.
You certainly have. So we're looking trim.
Yes. I think it's a well-groomed show. Okay, right. Let's get into it. In a stunning moment, all 20 drivers currently competing in the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship have sent a letter to FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem. Now, entering this weekend's Madrid E-Prix at the Circuito del Jarama in Spain, the drivers are standing together and expressing their unhappiness about the current state of Formula E. Now, Sam Smith from The Race, not the singer, was able to obtain the letter and revealed key details the drivers shared with the FIA president. Now, according to Smith, the letter starts off by acknowledging that they've noticed the effort and improvement each year with local ASNs, marshalling, safety, track conditions, technical fairness, and general procedures. Now, while those are positives, they still feel like work needs to be done to make Formula E even better. Now, apparently, the drivers have shared a growing concern about the current standard consistency, stewarding, and race direction of Formula E. Now, they've also requested the appointment of a driver advisors which have direct Formula E experience and an independent review of stewarding consistency. Now, Smith says that Sulayem is expected to be on site this weekend at Jarama, so it could lead to an opportunity for some face-to-face conversations. Now, an FIA spokesperson told The Race that they are reviewing the comments on sporting matters raised recently by the drivers and will continue using the same proactive approach to develop an interest in Formula E to ensure the highest standards are met. Now, Smith added that the 20 Formula E drivers decided to align and do this in an organised way because they felt unheard as well. Now, the link to this article is in the video description below, and the photo here, courtesy of Porsche Motorsport. Well, Kobe, I'm sorry to start with you. I know you're not feeling 100%, so hopefully you can do it. Straight to the popcorn as well, says Joe. It's going to be a good one, this. Are you surprised that every Formula E driver signed on to this letter and stood up to the FIA president all as one?
Yeah, Josh, it's really crazy that you got all 20 drivers to agree on something, right? Because we all know, regardless of what series it is, there are drivers who don't like each other and be like, I won't be a part of this just because, I'm not a fan of you. But to get all 20 drivers on board with this, it's quite extraordinary. And it's been obvious, for some time that the drivers, have been really, frustrated with the way things have gone. So they felt like the best course of action was to do this in a unified manner and stand up to Mohammed Ben Sulayem, the FIA president, and let him know what's on their minds. That there's no telling whether or not this will lead to positive change or not, within the Formula E paddock. But at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt to try, but they can't, deny it now since, it's obviously, been leaked to the media and everyone knows about it. Yeah, but I think the timing is, very interesting. Right before the Madrid E-Prix, which is happening this weekend, that this has come out now. So when all the drivers, teams get to the track this weekend, we know what the reporters are going to be asking them, and that's going to be, the topic of mine. But it's quite extraordinary that we have every single driver in this year's Formula E season have signed on to this letter, and they want to see changes now, with the officiating, and just the overall nature of Formula E to try to make this the, best racing series possible for all involved.
Well, good evening, everybody. This is what happens, isn't it, when you sack or make resign all of your good race directors? A subject we've been following closely on this show for the last 18 months, it would seem. Not surprising. As you say, quite good to everybody. 20 people in a room, regardless of who they are, race, creed, religion, etc., to agree on something, and they've managed to do that. So congratulations to all of them. You would hope that the FIA president is on site this weekend, as it is the only FIA sanctioned championship that he's running this weekend. You would hope that he would be there. So it's going to be interesting to follow the news wires coming out from tomorrow and Friday, I guess, when everybody lands on site in Spain, if they're not there already, and see how this follows up. But Josh, I mean, you'll be more up to date and to speed with this one really than I am. But I mean, what's the level of stuff happening this new season since we started just before Christmas? Has it been a bit all over the place, head scratching penalties here, there, not? What's been the play from your?
I work with Formula E Zone. We link up to do our watch long commentary, so it just made sense because the JB Motorsports commentary now goes out to them and increases the Formula E viewership. They in turn have all their little features as well with the driver interviews, the press conferences. It made more sense, and we both decided that we wanted to do more to analyse the instance, and we call it Steward's Watch. And the only race we haven't done a Steward's Watch for was Miami, because nothing really happened there. But we've had to do Steward's Watch pretty much every event to see, was it the right decision? We disagreed with them in Mexico because when there was a dive bomb maneuver, do you remember, that came through and it wiped out Dan Ticktum and no penalty was given? We felt there should have been a penalty. And then in Saudi Arabia, there was similar argy-bargy maneuvers going on at the corners that some were right not to be given penalties, some that should have been given penalties, and some that were just bizarre that they got penalties, like Oliver Rowland. So the stewarding has been up and down a lot this year, and I think it's mainly all stemmed from Mexico, where it was just crazy. Sao Paulo was actually quite bad as well, thinking about it as well, with the accidents and everything. So they're unhappy with the race director. They're unhappy with the way the stewarding is, but everything else is on the positive. But I can see why. But yeah. Have you seen any races yet yourself, Matt?
I haven't got to catch up with any of this season, but just trying to think back to the last couple of years, I don't think it must have. Obviously, there clearly is a steward's problem. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about it, and this letter wouldn't have been written. But frankly, there seems to be a driving standards issue in Formula E, which seems to be getting worse over the last sort of couple of generations of car and couple of series. Like some of the stuff that was going on last year, towards the end of the season at sort of London and Berlin in particular, was just like, what are you doing? Seriously. So
I still don't know what's going on with it.
Yeah, and clearly it's not got much better by the sound of things. So, yes, so just one of those things, I guess, that's been bubbling under for a while, and the pot now has boiled over and has made a mess all over the kitchen side.
Absolutely, as well. And do you want to add to the mess even more? Because adding to it, the Formula E team principals were also shocked because they were unaware of their drivers delivering this letter to the FIA president until it arrived. Now, the race revealed some of those team principals were not happy, with some teams thinking about punishing their drivers for signing on to the letter. Now, Smith reported that some teams are considering withholding bonus payments this month, while others may fine their drivers. He suggested that while some team principals may understand the drivers' concerns, they weren't happy that they weren't consulted and kept in the dark about the letter delivered on March 11th. Now, it was discovered that Formula E teams and manufacturers have been in communication with the FIA to distance themselves from the driver's letter. A senior official for one of the teams who wished to remain anonymous told Smith that he actually has some sympathy for the FIA, especially race director of Mark Hanachevsky. Now, this person believes that Hanachevsky has done a good job and isn't sure that the letter is fully justified. Now, reading that, I know that he wants to remain anonymous, this team principal, but I know who it is because from reading that, the team principal's told me the same thing. So I think he's the only one who thinks that. So I know who it is, but I'm not going to say it because that's not goes against the wanting to remain anonymous. So, Matt, do you fear that the disconnect between Formula E team principals and the drivers could lead to a major fallout with potential of some drivers feeling disrespected and leave their teams? I want to add an adjacent to that because you're very much in with Formula One history. 1982 at Harama. Well, I'm going to not Harama. Where are we? Kyalami.
Kyalami. Yes, yeah. When we had the strike and they all slept in the same room and whatever else, all those stories from back in the day. Bringing the sport into disrepute, I feel like, is the line that needs to be slung in here. And yeah, quite seems like none of the teams knew or were told that this was going to happen, or team principals and team members, etc., that the drivers were going to take this stance. So there will be, I'm sure, written somewhere on social media or in a headline this weekend, Formula E drivers and FIA in crunch meeting to decipher guidelines and all that stuff. And let's be honest, with another Formula One FIA series, we've had enough of racing guidelines over the last 12 to 18 months, have we not? So haven't had to talk about those over the last 2 weeks, which has been grand. More on Formula One later, I'm sure. But this will, as I said before, all come out in the wash over the weekend. You know what the FIA is like, and we've been following it on this show for the last little while. There will probably be a change. If it isn't in the not too immediate future, then perhaps at the end of the season, when they'll go groveling back to someone that they've already fired. Please come back and steward our championship, please. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens, I guess. But for the whole of the drivers community, let's say, to go against, or not go against, but to go in a different direction to the teams and race direction as such, pretty outrageous, really, when you step back and think about it, and a bit of a revolt going on. So yeah, going to be interesting to see how it plays out over these next few weeks, because we've had that little break, haven't we, now, since the non-European races. Now we get to this run of European races with Harama, Monaco, etc., coming up in the next little while. They're going to be all together far more often and not having to do all this stuff by Zoom or WhatsApp.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting storyline to follow, within the next, few weeks and months as we get deeper into the Formula E season. But yeah, it's really something that some of these team principals are thinking about, disciplining their drivers for going behind their backs and, just deciding to do their own thing. Say that we're going to unite together. We're going to send this letter to the FIA, and hopefully it leads to some type of change that we want to see to make Formula E better. And I'm sure if some of these team principals actually, decide to, let's say, we're not going to pay you your bonus this month, or we're going to fine you a certain amount, for doing this. We like looking at the Formula E driver market. Some drivers may be happy where they currently are right now, but if the team principal, decides that they're going to, issue this fine for being a part of this letter, the driver who was once comfortable with this team may decide, hey, I'm not being treated respectfully here, so I may decide that I want to leave when that driver could have been with that team, into next season or future seasons. And then they may decide that they want to weigh their options elsewhere and be with a team that's going to, try to at least understand their concerns and support the matter, at least behind the scenes, not necessarily, directly support them out, publicly, as Josh said, that, these teams are trying to align with the FIA behind the scenes, just to be like, hey, we're not a part of this, this is all them. But yeah, it's just a really crazy situation to see this, all going down in Formula E, and we'll have to wait and see if there's going to be any major fallout. related to the team principals not being happy, and the drivers just decided to move on their own. And then Adam, want to thank you for joining our bracket challenge for the NCAA tournament coming up, and really appreciate your well wishes for me to get better soon. And you also said you're hoping everything can get resolved in Formula E. Is an awesome series to follow. Yeah, definitely agree with that.
Kobe, I hate to throw you under the bus completely more, but I have got another question to follow up for you first of all before going back to Matt. We've seen the World Rally Drivers Alliance, the WRDA, and Formula E drivers now stand up to the FIA. Could their efforts sort of inspire the Grand Prix Drivers Association, which is the GPDA, to follow in their footsteps and express their growing concerns in the discontent with the new F1 regulations that we've been seeing in the opening rounds?
Well, when you look at the World Rally Championship drivers and Formula E drivers, that's two different groups, and it seems like the one group left standing is the Grand Prix Drivers Association. And it would be really crazy to me if we ended up seeing all the Formula One guys deciding to talk to the FIA president about the new regulations. I know you guys did a great segment. I believe it was last week's show or the week before when you're talking about what was happening in Australia after seeing the new regulations after one race. And Matt, you said, like, what's everyone complaining about? Because you really enjoyed the racing that we saw, and I thought we saw some great racing in Australia and also during the Chinese Grand Prix as well. But as we know, there's a lot of Formula One drivers who do not like the new regulations. I know we've often talked about Max Verstappen's comments on this show, because it seemed like every single week he's making comments that are negative about the new regulations. And after the Chinese Grand Prix, Max hit out at the regulations again, and Max said that basically most, if not all, the drivers feel the same way that he do, but a lot of them are kind of afraid to speak out about it. So, but he's the one who's willing to be the most vocal about the new regulations. And then Toto Wolff, fired back at Max and said Max is only saying that because he's going through a Red Bull horror show right now. Basically, he's not in the same position he's been in the last few years, just out front, dominating the competition and not really having much competition on a week-to-week basis. So Max and Toto are, obviously, don't see eye to eye on that subject. But I guess if the drivers, get fed up enough with the new regulations, maybe we could see them, stand together. But honestly, who really knows? Formula One's the pinnacle of motorsport. Drivers got a lot to lose in that series, but I honestly have no idea if the Grand Prix Drivers Association will want to get involved in that. But I guess if they get frustrated enough as we get more race under our belt, maybe we'll see some change. I know, like in the next few years ahead, the drivers would like to see some tweaks to the regulations, but it's too soon to tell if anything is truly going to happen, because this is just year one and we're still figuring all of this out together. But at the moment, it seems like the vast majority of the drivers are not happy, and we'll see if they decide to take a unified approach, like we've seen from the World Rally Drivers Alliance WRDA and the Formula E drivers. I guess Formula E don't have an official drivers union name yet.
Oh, don't worry, I'm sure it's coming. Don't forget, of course, last year we had the GPDA letter to MBS, which kicked off all the swearing stuff, which then led on to the WRDA, the World Rally stuff as well. Kind of this sort of time last year, wasn't it, from memory? So if not a bit later into the spring. So that's WRC upset, Formula E upset, and Formula One drivers upset. We hold our hope on the WEC drivers, the only FIA championship not to be affected so far by this being fine, but because of course they're not allowed to talk about balance of performance anyway. On the F1 thing, again, race at the weekend was fine. We'll talk about it, I'm sure, later on in the show. New Formula One fans, you perhaps will not remember that at the end of 2008 we had a massive regulation change. And the two teams that were fighting for the title at the end of 2008, which of course was famously won by Lewis Hamilton, were McLaren and Ferrari. Guess what happened at the start of 2009? They were both useless, absolutely terrible. This year, McLaren and Red Bull fighting for the championship at the end of last season, useless, absolutely terrible. Who's been spouting off the most about the regulations being rubbish? Max Verstappen and slightly latterly Lando Norris. They're not winning, they're complaining. And in McLaren's case, not even starting the races, but that's another story for later on in the show.
Yep, I'm with you on that. They just complain, because later on in the show I will say how much that, I don't know if you can see, but this microphone I'm holding here, this one here, it is still marked where, just at the top there, can you see? At the top, that little white stuff, that is where I was talking into it so much that my mouth, the what's it called? Spit almost, the moisture.
When?
That's it. I need to clean it with one of these little safety buds. So what you do is you get that, put it in a little bit of antibacterial gel, and then you just give it a little wipe around and a little clean. And then it's bacterially free. But that's how much I was shouting, and I was pressing it right against me. There was a mark for hours above my above my nose and lip here. It was just dented in because I was pushing it so hard because it was just so exciting. So yeah, definitely one of the Grand Prix. Formula One is back. It's Matt, we'll talk about this later, but we grew up in the times of when reliability was an issue. And Kobe, you remember as well from watching in the IndyCar days yourself about how the fact that, they weren't so bulletproof. We had engine failures. We had issues. This is motor racing. This is what it's supposed to be. You can't, I don't think this generation could grow up without something working correctly. Otherwise, they'll just freak out.
I remember from my youth, 1994, the Monaco Grand Prix I had recorded from the live coverage on the day. Of course, that was the first race after Ayrton Senna's untimely death. Michael Schumacher qualified his Benetton on pole. We didn't see anyone else for an hour and a half because the TV direction was just focusing on Michael going round and round in circles after the start. Now, it's, there's something going on over here. There's something going on over there. What's this Williams doing? Esteban Ocon's running into people. We'll talk about that in a little while. But people were making mistakes and having reliability issues. And the last regulation cycle of Formula One got to that point at the end where we weren't seeing Red Bulls blowing up on the fourth lap like happened to Hadjar in Melbourne. It just didn't happen. So
let's not forget that at the start of the previous regulation change, race 1, Red Bull DNF'd. McLaren needed topping up every 5 minutes. There were problems. This is what you get. They'll iron them out, so just enjoy it while it's happening. Stop moaning about it. Then we've got unpredictable racing. Yeah, all right, Mercedes are winning, but Ferrari are getting their act together, and Japan's a circuit that Lewis likes. So come on, the stats are on the side. We'll talk more about this later on in Hots and Knots as well, because I'm conscious about the time. Let's talk about something a little bit more serious and a lot less fun. Yesterday, NASCAR and Kaulig Racing suspended Craftsman Truck Series driver Daniel Dye indefinitely after he was caught mocking NTT IndyCar Series driver David Malukas during a live stream. Now, on a What Not stream, Dye was on a video with fellow driver Brent Cruz and other person opening trading cards. Now, then the conversation turned to the Craftsman Truck Series doubleheader race weekend with IndyCar, and Dye revealed what it was like to spend time around Malukas. He said he didn't know who Malukas was at first. He originally thought the Team Penske driver was a competitor in the Mazda MX-5 Cup or Indy Next. One of the people on the stream made a comment that Malukas plays for the other team. Now, Dye went on to say he asked Malukas if they raced on any ovals and mocked the way Malukas spoke to him, calling it his David Malukas gay voice. Now, in a separate clip, Dye said that he was checking for the David Malukas Grindr account. Now, he continued to mock Malukas and use homophobic comments to make fun of him. As a result, NASCAR and Kaulig suspended him indefinitely. Now, according to the NASCAR rulebook, Dye violated Section 4.3.c, which states, NASCAR members shall not make a public statement or communication that criticizes, ridicules, or otherwise disparages another person based upon that person's race, color, creed, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, marital status, religion, age, or handicapping condition. Now, before he's eligible for reinstallment, Dye will have to complete sensitivity training. At the moment of our live show on this topic, Team Penske or Malukas haven't commented on the incident involving Dye. However, Dye revealed and released this statement shortly after he received an indefinite suspension, and the graphic on the left is courtesy of Kaulig Racing. He says, "I want to first apologize to David Malukas. I recently went on a live stream with some friends and made some careless comments. I chose my words poorly, and I understand why it upset people. I'm sorry to anyone who was offended. That's not how I want to represent myself. I have some close friends in the LGBTQ plus community who I would never want to feel less of themselves because of what I said. And that's exactly why I should hold myself to a higher standard. In talking with them, I realized that a true friend would know better than to act the way I did, and for that, I need to be a better friend. What I said doesn't reflect how I feel about them or anyone else. I didn't think enough before I spoke, and I in no way meant any harm. I know that intention does not erase impact, and I need to do better. I'm taking this seriously and working on being more aware and respectful moving forward. I'm sorry to everyone I let down. I'm committed to learning from this and better understanding that the impact that my decisions can have on others. That includes educating myself, listening to those affected, and taking meaningful steps to ensure my actions reflect respect and inclusivity going forward. I know I've got a platform and a responsibility, and I need to use it better." That was from Daniel Dye. Matt, just a ridiculous thing to have to talk about. What a stupid comment to be made. So, first of all, was the indefinite suspension justified? And how disappointing is it that Daniel Dye would make homophobic comments about David Malukas?
Well, yes, it is just crazy and ridiculous that we have to delve into this kind of thing. A great man once said to me, hang on, that was earlier on today, and his name was Matthew Owens. First of all, he's an idiot. Second of all, he's also a big idiot. I mean, that apology that you had on the screen there, the statement that was put out by that apology that was written by Daniel's people and had probably nothing to do with him. Absolute tosh. Rubbish. What a waste of time that someone's had to have to type that out today, or whenever it was that it went out, and put it out. Because if he's saying that kind of stuff on a live stream, what is he saying when he's not on the camera?
Yeah.
And he's not being listened to by people. And he or said person that's written said statement is right, that, you know, actions and consequences and etc. etc. And now he's been benched. First of all, you're in the motorsport community at this level. Yeah, Truck Series is the third tier, granted, but it's racing on the IndyCar weekend. You should kind of have some experience of who is driving for Team bleeping Penske in the IndyCar Series. Oh, he's just some guy from MX5. No, what was he having? Why was he anywhere near David Malukas to have an interaction with him anyway, frankly, unless it was at some sort of driver meeting, get together, autograph signing, whatever. But surely they wouldn't be sprinkling Truck Series drivers intermingling with the IndyCar guys. Just ridiculous. I mean, we saw, and it was probably about 6 years ago to the week, the Kyle Larson thing that happened at the beginning of the pandemic, which got him into, of course, huge hot water and ended up losing his ride. Daniel Dye is not Kyle Larson. This could be a fairly dramatically big problem for him and his career going forward. If I was a team owner, and I've obviously seen all this come out this year, even if he does come back and starts winning races in the Truck Series to contend for a championship, he's not signing for my team. Absolutely no way. It's 2026, for goodness sake. Why is this stuff A, still going on generally in the world, and B, on a live stream? I thought that watching the career that I've seen from young Brent Cruz, you know, he's a guy that's going places and could have a stellar career. He does not need to be associating himself with a guy like Daniel Dye, frankly. So very disappointed in this whole situation. And let's hope that this sensitivity training actually is a big brick that falls on his toe and realizes that, he is looked upon by the young guys coming up through the sport. And we've said this before with other things in the young people coming through. Look at the guys that have made a name for themselves and go, I want to be like him. You don't want to be like this.
No. And rubbish apology by a person who has only shown himself in the past as a rubbish person. It's how he's always represented himself. It wasn't just the words he chose, it was also the mocking tone. That
Good.
As well.
Good evening.
I was watching the clips and it's the tone. If it was just the words, arguably he could have got away with it. But it's the fact that he did the mocking tone as well and continued to do it for 2 minutes, continued to hammer home the same point, continued to just, he knew what he was doing. He knew. If it was one careless word, maybe...
Like the Kyle Larson thing.
Exactly. But this was targeted. This was full-on prejudiced. He knew. And that annoys me, especially when his sponsor for a few races that he's been doing is a suicide prevention organization. It really annoys me. Really annoys me.
We were going to get to that in a sec, but you said there'd been no word from Team Penske or David Malukas so far. Frankly, they don't need to say anything.
No, they don't.
They do not need to say a single word. Daddy's money will make this go away, just like it did with his past idiotic controversies. And because Daddy has his fingerprints all over Kaulig's round program, you can guess where I'm going with this.
We'll get on to that in just a second.
Fan of the Kaulig Racing team.
Yeah, we'll go on to that in just a second because I just want to touch on the Penske situation for a minute. Obviously, this is Daniel Dye is never, ever, ever going to be at Team Penske in NASCAR. He's nowhere anywhere near. He's not that caliber of driver. But also, what he's effectively done is he's shot himself in the foot completely because it's cancelled any attack in IndyCar in his future, in Indy Next, in IndyCar, ever. He will never be allowed in there because who owns that series? Roger Penske. And who did you just, publicly ridicule? Roger Penske and his driver, who is tipped to be the next big thing. I mean, for God's sake, how do you not know David Malukas? He has been tipped to be the next superstar in IndyCar. You know who he is.
The last 3 or 4 years, and he's had his troubles, of course, with injury and stuff, which we've documented for a while on this show. And now he's got himself a plum ride, and and he's got to contend with this idiot.
And did really well at Arlington as well, by the way. Really well at Arlington. Every weekend he's having improvements. I'm super duper impressed as well with David Malukas. Well, Daniel Dye, we'll see if he's just killed his career coming into it, because now with Dye suspended, Kaulig's Cup Series regular AJ Allmendinger will drive Dye's number 10 Ram 1500 in the Truck Series race at Darlington Raceway on Friday night. Now, speaking of Ram, the manufacturer returned to the sport this year, and Dye being a part of their driver lineup is supposed to be a full circle moment for the whole Dye family. As you mentioned, Matt, his father, Randy Dye, is a long-time car salesman in Florida, specifically selling Dodge and Ram vehicles. Daniel even mentioned how his first road vehicle was a Ram truck and how becoming a Ram driver meant so much to him. Now, his future with Kaulig and Ram could be up in the air after making homophobic comments about Malukas. Now, during Ram's race for the seat show, Kaulig CEO Chris Rice often emphasized how important it is to represent the team and manufacturer well on and off the track. Now, it's clear that Dye didn't do a good job representing Kaulig and Ram. It's also not his first troubling incident off the track. In 2022, Dye was arrested after punching a high school classmate in the groin and charged with a felony before agreeing to complete an anger management class and do community service and compensate the victim. Also, Dye won last year's Comcast Champion of the Year award for his Race to Stop Suicide non-profit started in inspiration after he lost his cousin to suicide when Dye was just 14 years old. as I said now, that's the bit that really gets to me as well. The fact is that he's done all this and he's targeted effectively bullying where he knows where it could lead up. It's just having lost friends to suicide, having friends and family who are LGBTQ+. I'm really angry about this. I really am. So effectively, Matt, with 2 strikes against him now, could Dye's NASCAR career be in jeopardy? And how sad is it that he's done something to Malukas that some people have taken their own lives over, as I've mentioned?
Yeah, it's just a terrible situation for everybody, frankly. I feel like that truck would probably get a better result this week with AJ Allmendinger in it on Friday night too. Yeah, I'd like to see Daniel make the same kind of apology that someone else has written for him there by actually speaking it in a piece to camera somewhere over the next however long it's going to take, because then at least it's actually coming from his mouth rather than being just posted all over social media in that kind of way. So yeah, I mean, this is, I don't want to sound too crass here, but this is clearly a well-to-do family that have done very well for themselves, and someone that has drifted through this first portion of his life without too many cares in the world, really, and got himself into a good spot in life, you can be sure, as a NASCAR Truck Series regular, without having to trouble too much about finding funding like some of those other guys have to do every single week at the back end of the field and come to a racetrack with a blank truck and set on the grid and get paid and do all that kind of thing without really too much trouble. Well, trouble is waiting for you around every single corner, and there is plenty of people in life generally that breeze through on the coattails of other people and get to where they end up being, while muggins like me do 2 people's jobs for very little money each day of the week and get no thanks for it. So it's just disappointing that the class thing is awful. You work your whole life and blood, sweat and tears for not very little, while other people breeze through and find themselves in a plum spot only to shoot themselves in the foot with both barrels, with both shotguns, with both grenades, and both Molotov cocktails in this case.
I was just going to say, if I was Daniel Dye and I had the golden spoon, I'd personally shove it up somewhere where the sun doesn't shine.
Take Jimmy John's golden horseshoe.
Yes, yeah, and put it up where the behind the refrigerator, that old line. Race to Stop Suicide has been a long-time partner with Dye's team, going back to he's getting up to the Grand National and Truck Series. Hopefully they'll drop him. Hopefully so too, because there's so many better deserving people who can sponsor that team. Honestly, it's ridiculous. And just want to say, everybody here at the Grid Network stands behind David Malukas. This is a horrible thing to be attacked about. It's honestly unbelievable. So yeah, David Malukas, we know the talent you have and how much of a great person you are. So just ignore this little pest. Yeah, because I don't think many people in America know what a what's-its are. I don't know, actually. Kobe, you have to tell us, do you have what's-its over there? They're like the little yellow
cheese puffs at the States.
Cheese puffs, isn't it? Probably not the best thing to align it to as well, that, but yeah, well, yeah, I don't know. He's an idiot. He's an absolute idiot. Just get out of here. He's never heard of it until now. Okay, I'll get an image up during Hots and Knots and show you what it looks like. Okay, should we talk about something good now and get ourselves a little bit happy and smiling? And this hurts NASCAR, because now national media that never talks about NASCAR get hold of this and continues to feed the stereotypes of NASCAR and its fans. I agree with that, because that was the one thing I was worried about coming onto this show tonight, is the fact is that I didn't want to alienate the NASCAR fans, because the NASCAR fans are not this. They are really not. And I think we've seen that over the past 18 months, whereas the fact is that we've had the removal of the Confederate flag, and basically all the fans telling Donald Trump to get out of here is kind of a telling sign as well, which I found quite interesting. So yeah, when he was supposed to be at the Daytona 500, they said, go away. That was quite telling. But yeah, so NASCAR fans are some of the best in the world. They really are. They're passionate about their sports. It's the most grassroots fan base at a top tier level. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So, let's talk about something happy, Matt, because it's good news for us. Yeah, and it's great news for you as well, especially. For the first time since 2019, the World Rally Championship will return to the United Kingdom. Now, in a partnership with Motorsport UK, WRC promoter and the Scottish government, they have announced that there will be a new gravel-based event in North East Scotland for WRC Rally Scotland in 2027. Now, next year's UK Rally will be the first of a 3-year deal and end an 8-year absence after previously running the Wales Rally GB. Now, Scotland's dramatic landscapes and world-class forest roads are expected to provide a unique challenge for the drivers, and there will be a candidate event later this year to prepare for the return of rally racing to the UK. Now, Dave Richards, chairman of Motorsport UK, you might remember him on this show because he was in contention to run against Mohammed Ben Sulayem for the FIA president last year as well, and gave me the little bit of a nod that he was trying to do that back at Donington a year ago. But he's in charge of, and the chairman of Motorsport UK, he said rallying has always had a special place in the story of British motorsport and believes that this event will showcase the passion of the British rally community, photo courtesy of World Rally Championship. I don't even need to ask this question, Matt. How excited are you? Go.
Well, as you might be able to point out behind me, still on the wall, I have my car passes from 2016 and 2017 for my trips to Wales for the WRC, where you get up in the dead of night in the end of October, beginning of November at 4 a.m. and traipse into a forest and perhaps go back to sleep. And then, you could hear them coming through the fog. It's brilliant. It's sensational, and I cannot wait. It looks like, just while you were doing the bit there, Josh, pulled up the British Rally Championship calendar. The Grampian Rally in August looks to be probably what they'll use as the candidate event. So keep an eye on for that one. I already want to know where the service park will be, when on the calendar it will be. I will maybe making reservations to take that time off of work immediately, because doing those 2 years of doing that was awesome. Like, you'd watch a morning stage, you'd filter out, you'd go find somewhere to go to lunch or whatever, even if it was McDonald's, and then you'd go and find an afternoon stage to go and do and it was brilliant. I loved it. So good for the whole weekend, especially the second year. It would have been the second year, 2017, when Elvin Evans won in Wales for the first time, as Sebastian Ogier clinched the championship for Ford. So on the same day, and I was at the last stop line of the last stage, the power stage, on the Sunday, to see Elvin get out of his car and celebrate with friends and family down there. So now you would go, right, who have we got that's Scottish that we can go and bring in there? Max McRae is on his way, but he's not quite at WRC level yet. So that will all be, of course, part of all of the build up to this. Will be shots of Colin sideways in a Subaru. I even went to WRC back in the day when it used to go around the whole country, back in the 90s. Went to Silverstone one year when they had a stage round Silverstone, and then had a service in the Formula One garages, of course at the old pit lane, because this was 97. Super excited to get it back. And I'm going to the Grand Prix this year at Silverstone, but I'm already more excited about that, frankly, because it's just great. And the rally fans that we have here in the UK, it's been too long since, what did you say, 2019, since we had the last Wales event, and COVID, of course, was part of all of that, going away in 2020 as well. But one of the big events on the calendar throughout those big years of WRC in the late 90s, early 2000s, Monty, GB, Finland, probably Australia in the height of when it was out in Perth, and maybe the Corsica Rally as well when it was on the island there. They were the big core events of the calendar. Others perhaps will argue with me and say, oh yeah, what about us? But GB was more than often not the championship decider as well. And the memories of Colin rolling the Focus when he was in contention, Bernsey winning his championship, Solberg, all of the Loeb championships as well, all won here. Most of them are for him anyway. One here in GB, OJ, as I mentioned. So to get WRC back on British soil is big and great for Scotland, that they will have a world-class event up in Scotland, like outside of Knock Hill, where we have the one touring car meeting and British Superbikes up there. Really, that's their only motorsport fix generally, unless it's really low-level stuff for the year. So to have a WRC event in and around wherever the service park will be next year is super exciting. And there's a lot of change in WRC calendar over the last couple of years. We've seen a fair few new events coming in, like Chile a couple of times. We went to Paraguay last year for the first time. Saudi Arabia, of course, at the end of last year as well. So big calendar changes going on in WRC, and I am mega excited for this to be back.
Bring it on. I'm going to have to go. WRC in Scotland is going to be incredible. Hopefully they'll remember Colin McRae and his brother. I was just about to say that.
Oh, they'll remember, Adam.
Yeah, it's going to be quite the little celebration, isn't it, with him? It's going to be quite fun to see. Hello, Amy. Nice to see you. Right. Let's throw right back over to you, Matt, because you've got the latest from the Grid EPI update, and we didn't have it last week because it's been a busy week, isn't it?
Well, we've had a little bit of a break in the EPI update, and it was supposed to start back up again last week, with the first race of the sort of European season for the Grid Endurance Performance Index, with the first race on the Nordschleife. But this is the scene in Germany in the Eifel Mountains on Saturday morning. Yes, not good. We've had weather affect the 24 hours in the summer, and now we've had weather affect the first round of the NLS for 2026. It was cancelled after a delay to practice and qualifying, which happens first thing Saturday morning. There was a test on Friday, which was run in better conditions, and I'm sure people would have seen the Verstappen.com and Mercedes, I think it was Jules Green at the wheel, doing some laps in the test on Friday. But the race was shelved. So we have lost one race from the Grid EPI, and we've lost one race from the NLS schedule for the year. But never fear, because there's another NLS race coming this week, and the weather is supposed to be better. With race 2, Max Verstappen, of course, is in the field for it. So there will be plenty of people tuning in on Saturday to see how Max gets on, either on the ground, as we saw last year when he did his one race in the big class, and of course on the live stream too. A couple more races from the EPI this weekend, along with the Nordschleife race, which hopefully will happen if it doesn't look like that on Saturday. The Mugello 12 Hours is the first race of the European season for the Creventic Michelin 24-hour series. And the big one from IMSA, and we're going to talk about it in Pick a Winner as well a little bit later on. It is the Sebring 12 Hours, the second race of the season for the IMSA WeatherTech Championship this weekend. A very, very big weekend of endurance performance index stuff, which means I get to bring the spreadsheet back out on Monday and entry all the data, which I was very disappointed not to be able to do last week because the race was cancelled. So that is all of what is coming up this week. Of course, we know that WEC Qatar has moved to the end of the season with all what's happening in the Middle East, as we reported on the show a couple of weeks ago. So this is the real last chance for people to get themselves in the top 10 for the first Grid EPI Week 1 top 10, which we will reveal on the 1st of April. No joke. It will be out on the 1st of April on this show. So that is what's happening this weekend. NLS 2, featuring Max Verstappen, Sebring 12 Hours, and the Mugello 12 Hours happening this weekend. We'll tell you all about what happened in all three of those races on the show in the EPI slot next week. Kobe's been resting his voice, ready to bring you the rest of the week's news.
Thanks, Matt. Time for some more motorsports news from around the world. And as first reported on Grid Live After Dark, the Bahrain Grand Prix and Saudi Arabian Grand Prix will not take place next month due to the war in the Middle East. Formula One and the FIA considered several alternative tracks to fill those slots on the schedule, but they ultimately decided not to replace the 2 race weekends in April. Formula 2, Formula 3, and F1 Academy will also not take place during this time. With these changes, after the Japanese Grand Prix on March 29th, the next F1 race will be the Miami Grand Prix on May 3rd. F2 will have a long gap and won't return until June 6th at Monaco. The same for F3. F1 Academy will return on May 23rd at Montreal. on the FIA World Endurance Championship side of things, and Matt just alluded to, the Qatar 12 kilometer event has been moved to October 24th, with hopes it'll be safe to race there by then. FIA President Mohammed bin Salem said Bahrain and Saudi Arabia are very important to the ecosystem of the racing season and hopes to return there as soon as the circumstances allow, and emphasize the safety and well-being of the community coming first in regards to this decision. Graphic courtesy of the FIA. After starting as an April Fool's joke last year, BMW decided to turn this car into a real thing. The BMW M3 touring car will compete in the 24 Hours of Nürburgring in May and will debut next weekend in the second round of the NLS, running on Yokohama tires. On April 1st, 2025, BMW posted images of the car as a joke, and they were surprised to see the reaction from fans, with the social media post reaching more than 1 million viewers and over 1.6 million views. Those numbers are much higher than other posts from BMW, and inspired by all of the interest, BMW engineers went to work last summer and built the car within 8 months. For the 24 Hours on Nürburgring, the car will be fielded by Schubert Motorsport, with BMW factory drivers Jens Klingman, Ugo de Wilde, Connor De Philippe, and Neil Verhagen. The car will be entered in the SPX class, so it won't be in direct competition with the BMW M4 GT3s, which will be fighting for the overall win in the SP9 class. Andrea Ruse, head of BMW and Motorsport, said a project like this has never existed at BMW, and thanked the staff for pouring their hearts and souls into bringing this unique car to life. Photo courtesy of BMW M Motorsport. Hendrick Motorsports ruled out Alex Bowman for the next 3 races in the NASCAR Cup Series after experiencing symptoms of vertigo during the race at Circuit of the Americas. We haven't seen Bowman behind the wheel of his number 48 Chevrolet. Bowman won't compete in the upcoming races at Darlington Raceway, Martinsville Speedway, or Bristol Motor Speedway. During his absence, O'Reilly Auto Parts Series champion Justin Allgaier will continue to fill in for him through Bristol. Junior Motorsports also announced that Kyle Larson will replace Bowman in the number 8 Chevrolet in this weekend's O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race at Darlington. Larson looking to go back-to-back in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series after winning that race last Saturday at Las Vegas. Jeff Andrews, team president and general manager, said Bowman is continuing to experience symptoms of vertigo, so they're giving him all the time he needs to recover, and emphasize how the team supports him 100% during this time. Photo courtesy of Hendrick Motorsports. Indiana Hoosiers head football coach Kirk Cignetti will drive the pace car for the 110th running of the Indianapolis 500. Cignetti will drive the Corvette ZR1X, the most advanced Corvette ever developed, and lead the field of 33 to start the greatest spectacle in racing. His presence at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway will be in celebration of Indiana's undefeated season and national championship in the college football playoff. Doug Bowles, president of IndyCar and IMS, said Coach Cignetti would be the perfect choice to drive the pace car for this year's Indy 500 because the Hoosiers' run to a national championship inspired the entire state of Indiana. And if you don't know who Coach Cignetti is, he'd want me to tell you to Google him. Graphic courtesy of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Penrite Racing is losing technical director Grant McPherson to General Motors. This is another blow to the organization that lost its former team principal David Cauchy at the end of the 2025 season. Now losing McPherson, this really comes at a time when there's a lot of potential for the team to do something special, with Matt Payne and Kai Allen leading the way. And in response to the departure of their technical director, Penrite Racing released this strongly worded statement indicating that they're not happy about GM signing a key member of their team. And this statement says, "We wish Grant well in his move to General Motors. It's no surprise our people are in demand as we built one of the strongest technical teams in supercars, and that strength comes from the depth of talent. This is the second time General Motors has targeted our organization, and in both instances, it has involved significant above-market offers that speaks to the premium they're willing to pay as they work to improve their results deficit in the post-AAA era." And it said Grant will remain with the business for the next 5.5 months, during which his operational involvement will be progressively removed to ensure full protection of our intellectual property and a seamless transition of responsibilities. By the time he commences with General Motors, any information he holds will be well out of cycle within our performance system. This transition has allowed us to elevate talent from within, with 5 internal promotions, reinforcing the depth and capability of our engineering group. Our direction is clear, and we expect our performance to strengthen from here. And the statement is from team owner Stephen Grove, and graphic courtesy of Penrite Racing. And now we end our show with some sad news. This segment with some sad news. Last Saturday night, there was a fatality that occurred during the World of Outlaws sprint car event. Billy Hurt, the man you see here on the screen, he was a member of the safety and rescue team, and unfortunately, he was killed during an accident at Cannondale Speedway Park. In a statement from the World of Outlaws, officials were responding to a crash on the track when two emergency vehicles collided, resulting in a serious injury to safety official Jerry Myers. And Hurt tragically lost his life. For over 23 years, Hurt participated in safety and rescue efforts of sprint car drivers in the American Sprint Car Series and the World of Outlaws, including the Tulsa Shootout and the Chili Bowl Nationals. World Racing Group CEO Brian Carter said Hertz was a good person who put others before himself, dedicating his life to ensuring the safety of every driver, and expressed how deeply saddened they are by his loss. And on behalf of everyone here at Grid Network, we extend our deepest condolences to the family and friends of Billy Hurt during this difficult time, and may his memory be a blessing. Photo courtesy of the World of Outlaws. And that's all of the headlines I have for you all this week. So I'm going to turn over to Matt for this week's Pick a Winner.
And quickly, before we get to pick a winner, we want to thank everybody in the motorsport community, flaggies, officials, all the volunteers, because without any of that, none of it would be possible. And we don't want to see one of our own end up losing his life tragically like Billy did at the weekend. So all our thoughts with friends and family and the WOO community. Right, let's spin it on then to Pick a Winner, which is back for another week here with the Grid Network, and you can get your picks in for the races coming up this weekend by using the hashtag Pick a Winner on the Grid Network TV socials, and get yourself on that leaderboard, which has a tie now and a breakaway. We have two guys at the top tied on 9, Kobe and Matt B, who you'll see on Grid Rising again on Monday night with his cohort Tanner there in 3rd position. Josh up in the 4th place. Look at you go. I'm languishing in 10th, which is not great, but we have plenty of points on the table to score this weekend, and we're going to start our picking tonight with Formula E, which we top the show with, and we're going to kind of sort of tail it with ish as well, because they're in Madrid, they're just outside it at the Jarama racetrack, which they used at the preseason test the last couple of years, and they're there for a race for the first time this weekend. I have absolutely no idea. I'm going to pick Mitch Evans. Kobe?
I think I'm going to go with Pascal Verlaine. Yeah, it's really hard to tell since we've never raced here before, so we'll just pick a name out of a hat, and we'll see where they line up after qualifying. Who you got, Josh?
I'm going for Nick Cassidy. It's a circuit he was good at in testing a couple of years ago, and I think he's got a decent shout. Remember, pit boost also enabled for this event.
You can get your picks in and change them all the way up until lights out and or green flag or first stage if it's a WRC event. Not that there is one this weekend. As long as you're in before the cutoff, then you are fine with your final pick. So we have the chance to choose once we've seen what happens in qualifying. Don't forget Formula E, of course, that race is on Saturday. Also on Saturday and on Sunday, if it goes ahead, because half the racetrack is underwater at the moment, is the MotoGP race in Brazil. Back in Brazil for the first time since 2004. They're at the Goiânia circuit this weekend. And of course, there is a sprint race. Again, they've not been to the track before. We don't really know too much about it, as we've kind of said about on this show over the last couple of weeks. We've not really heard too much about MotoGP going to Brazil. I am going to pick for a sprint, because he did it for week 1. I think he could do it again at week 2. Pedro Acosta is going to be my sprint pick for MotoGP at the weekend. Who are you going with, Kobe?
I think I'm going to go with Marco Bezzecchi to take the first sprint win at this track in Brazil if it ends up happening. Matt, when you shared that photo, I thought that was AI at first, but then when I saw it was real, I was like, my goodness, it's really crazy to see that amount of flooding taking place at the track. So hopefully they'll get that taken care of and we can go racing in Brazil. Here you got Josh.
I'm going to pick Pedro Acosta on this one, but don't count out Alex Marquez. He's getting to grips with a new bike. And just to touch on that, people saying, oh, it's fake, because there was another image going out there with the track draining, but it was literally 30 minutes difference. The draining of that circuit is incredible. So both images were real. It was just the fact that the drainage had gone down quite a bit. So people going, oh, that's fake. Stereotypically, don't want to judge people here, but the people saying it was fake were Brazilian Twitter accounts. Just saying. They were saying they're fake, but these were taken from people who were actually at the circuit. But my understanding is that it is actually now drained, and they're now just sweeping up some of the mud that was brought onto the circuit. We should all be good to go, but it is due to rain quite a lot over the weekend, so this is touch and go whether or not this race is actually going to happen, but at least we know the drainage works.
We've done delays before. We did it at Manalika, didn't we, a couple of years ago, where we sat and waited for the rain to clear. What was that, 2018, 19, something like that?
Megan was not happy.
Maybe we'll have that again this weekend. Final race to pick from tonight is what I mentioned in the EPI update, is the second race of the IMSA Championship this weekend at Sebring in Florida on its traditional spring break weekend. I am going to take the 7 Porsche to win on Saturday. Again, just not quite sure, just have a hunch. Kobe, who you got?
I'm actually going to go with one of the Cadillacs. I think we're going to see the number 40 Wayne Taylor Racing Cadillac get Jordan Taylor, Louis Delatraz, Colton Herta take the overall victory at Sebring. I feel like Cadillac's due for a win in this event. Who are you going with, Josh? There's a lot to pick from in this GTP class.
There really is a lot, but I was actually sticking with the number 7 after their dominant performance at Daytona, because they just sort of seemed to carry the momentum through for the first half of the season. Remember last year, in the dominant run they went on, it's the same sort of mentality they've got now. But just to touch on that Sebring as well, of course, a place where if you run the Aston Martin F1 car over it as well, it's actually perfectly smooth. It's sort of it's like a negative effect. The bumps of Sebring and the bumps of the car sort of just make it just smooth. It's like holding jelly in an earthquake. It's quite funny.
Get Fernando Alonso to Sebring pronto. So you can get your selections in for Pick a Winner using the hashtag Pick a Winner on all of the Grid Network TV social media accounts. We're on them all, as I'm sure you know by now. You can get yourself on that leaderboard going into the European season when the points really do stack up. Joe is going with Da Costa to back up his win earlier on in the season with Formula E at Jarama. Marc Marquez for Kiska and I. If the water levels go down, Kiska, of course, is the Grid Network dog. So get on the scoreboard, of course, because Mark didn't get one of the wins in Thailand, controversially, some might say. Adam says Jake Dennis for Formula E and Marc Marquez for MotoGP. Do you have any more before I move on? And Joey's going with the number 6 Penske to win at Sebring, and Adam's going with the number 7. So we're kind of all on board with the Penske Porsche train, which is good, really, because I'm going to start hots and knots with, it might be Darlington Throwback Weekend, but we've had the paint scheme of the weekend. There it is, the Mobile One Porsches ready for Sebring this weekend. Oh my goodness, that is incredible. Love that. That's the paint scheme of the weekend. I know it's Throwback Weekend for NASCAR, but that looks awesome.
Unofficial Throwback Weekend.
Unofficial, yes, that's right. Right then, we've hinted that we're going to talk about Formula One, so let's do that, shall we? Congratulations to Andrea Antonelli on getting his first Grand Prix victory.
Yes, congratulations, Kimi Räikkönen, as Bob Constant Juris put it. Nina sent me that, and I was second guessing myself. I was like, "Oh, Bob, what did you do?" He called him Kimi Räikkönen
on the podium, on the PA.
Yeah. Not the best, but well done, Kimi Räikkönen.
Out of George Russell.
Yeah. Just no. First of all, Antonelli thoroughly deserved that. He was controlled, calm, consistent. Loved it the whole weekend. George was always going to win the sprint, but the moment that car failed in qualifying, Antonelli seized control of it and never let it go. It was a brilliant battle with the Ferraris because their start launch procedure is better than NASA getting Apollo 11 off the ground. It is brilliant stuff.
Armistice or whatever it's called.
Oh, well, they can't get Armistice off, can they? As they try to chase that god as well. Artemis, goddess of the hunt. Yeah, that's all coming through. See, my education still, it's impressive, isn't it? But no, honestly, great weekend for Anthony. Great weekend for Oliver Behrman. P5. What a stunning
really
performance from him.
Especially after what happened to him on the first lap.
Yeah, getting sent out wide, wasn't it? And just Hamilton's first podium since Vegas. And it was just brilliant. First Italian winner for Antonelli since Fisher Keller 20 years ago today, wasn't it? Tomorrow. 20 years ago. Yeah. 19th of March 2006 in Kuala Lumpur. And I had to find that stat out. But interestingly enough, another stat that Crofty got, that I doubt Crofty got that stat wrong, but he got a stat from McLaren, right? It's the first time since Bruce McLaren, when he was driving his own team, that McLaren had failed to start 2 races running.
Oh, the one he got wrong was at the end of the race, as he's calling it. He got the first pole position for an Italian since 2007. No, he didn't.
No.
Mr. Croft, that was Fisichella again for a Force India at Spa in 2009.
Yeah, because everyone went nuts.
Immediately.
Did he? Oh, I didn't know that. No, wrong again.
He was coming around the hairpin on the last lap, and I said, no, it's wrong.
First Italian driver to have a podium since Belgium 2009, because Fisichella got that. But yeah, if you look at it, Italian drivers had a good history, didn't they, in Formula 1 for a while, because Farina, the first winner. But you had 2003 was Fisichella winning, 2004 was Trulli, 2005 and 2006 was also Fisichella. So they went on a 4-year run, and then that was it, unfortunately, as well. So yeah, if only Fisichella didn't fall out with Flavy the same way Trulli did.
Yeah, like Jarno. Yeah, great stuff from Antonelli. I thought, apart from his little wobble at the end with the lockup, he was sensational. The fight between the two Ferraris after Russell had got past them, that was brilliant between those two. And you sit there going, "Oh, we're going to crash into each other. No, it's going to go wrong." But actually, they got out of it. And then I think Hamilton was behind at that point and kind of had a little couple of laps of catching his breath, perhaps, and then came back and got the flare.
Russell overtaking, being in a sandwich. Who's not enjoying Formula 1? Okay, the regulations have changed the way it works, but it's given us so much better racing. Who cares if they're having to lift off early to recharge battery? Yeah, they're having to do that, but that means that they can push on the exit and overtake the guys who just used the battery. It's strategy. And the racing's been epic. Yeah.
And it's going to be different from track to track.
Exactly. And the only criticism I keep pointing out is the fact is that the tyres don't work. It's the same with Formula 2 and Formula 3. The Pirelli tyres don't work because they're not... If to have the way Formula 1 is right now with the degradation of the battery, we need tyres that degrade, that give us more pit stops. We don't want the bulletproof tyres. We want tyres that degrade in order to give us more racing. Like that. So when the safety car came out as well, we were thinking, oh, this is going to be great. And then it just didn't work out. And Colapinto, by the way, what a great weekend he was having. I'm glad he managed to salvage a point. Colapinto, this weekend, he just completely changed my opinion of him. He was a great racer. Esteban Ocon, though, I mean, they called George Russell, a terrorist for the moves he does. Esteban Ocon, Jesus, he really is. He's beginning his own spin-off series, isn't he? He's like Roadrunner and the Coyote dropping the boulder. Just boom, boom, straight into every driver. In the past 12 months, I bet he's taken out more people than George Russell. It's unbelievable.
Do you want me to retrace my thought process of that incident live on the show right now?
Go on.
1, that's a penalty. 2, oh, Esteban, your mentions are going to be absolutely disgraceful. Because we know what the Argentinian fans are like. But yes, he did own up to it afterwards and during, I think, he radioed in.
He said it was my fault.
Sorry, that was my fault, and then got the penalty. I didn't say this last week, but I'm going to say it now. I don't understand. Is this any different to DRS? Really? No, not really. No. And we got to learn to live with that to some degree over the last however long it's been, 2009.
I'd argue this is a bit more organic because it's still driver controlled now.
Yeah,
it's like you can decide when you open the wings and etc.
That's right, and that Hamilton Leclerc battle was all drivers. That was no battery or wings, relatively speaking, wasn't that? Most of that whole
because all in corners.
Yeah, which is exactly what Anthony Davidson said on the Sky call at the time.
Oh, good. I didn't know how to listen to the call. I was on the way.
That's not. There's no battery involved here. I think it was his line. So.
Well, I was on my own. All I will say is though, I've said this for 2 weeks running now, that this has felt like the early 2000s. We're going to Suzuka next. I'm crossing my fingers. I'm crossing my toes. Just give us a good race. Give us that, because 03, 04, 05, 06 at Suzuka. Mwah! Beautiful races.
2005 Suzuka is still one of
the best. Yeah, I put it Suzuka 05, Brazil 03, Silverstones. You just keep knocking those off and how great races they were. But honestly, just tremendous.
Let's hope it stays. I normally like a wet race, but let's hope it stays dry for Suzuka so we can get kind of what we think might.
I want a dry race.
Joe, I was coming to this next. So Kimi Antonelli, the first Italian to win in Grand Prix since 2006. Takamoto Katsuta becoming the first Japanese driver to win a WRC event since 1992.
Wow.
Yeah. Shinizuka-san in the Ivory Coast in a Mitsubishi all those years ago. So finally, Katsuta, who's been on the brink of probably being sacked if he'd been another nationality, he would have been gone by now with the Toyota team for the last couple of years, finally breaking through when everybody else around him broke all pretty much at the same time on Saturday. Evans, Solberg and Ogier all were out fairly quickly together in terms of timescale, and it opened the door for Taka-san to come through and score a victory, which we can slightly quarterly claim here in the UK because his co-driver is Irish.
We'll claim it. We claimed it in Irvine, so that's fine.
We claimed Andy Murray at Wimbledon until he got knocked out, and then he was Scottish again. Hello to our Scottish viewers.
Yeah, I must just point out, by the way, that's how it works here in Britain. If you are part of the United Kingdom as well, if you do well in a sporting event, you're British. If you do badly, you're Scottish.
You return to your Scottish or Welsh or Irishness.
Yeah. So Jackie Stewart, Jim Clark, British. David Coulthard, Scottish. Yeah. So it's just how it works. Yeah. What's up? F1 in China and IndyCar in Arlington, Texas. That track is also on update. Yeah, to be fair, Arlington was great. Great race in Arlington. Caution free until the end. And that spoiled it for me because I was enjoying it. It was a tactical race, wasn't it? Have you seen it? Oh, no, I won't spoil it.
I've still got the end of last year to watch. Good Lord. Yeah, I know. But track looked cool from what I saw, and the IndyCar drivers and teams were full of praise for it all weekend, weren't they? Saying, this is the new standard for IndyCar, new events. And that, of course, I saw a Facebook account saying, oh, that's it now. We're looking at putting some overseas races. No, they're not.
No, they never will. They never will.
As much as I'd like to see an IndyCar race at Donington Park, it's not going to happen.
I know, that'd be awesome. I'd book out the Coventry box immediately. Final hot for me, Denny Hamlin. He was my pick a winner right from the start. That, honestly, is brilliant. So well done, Denny Hamlin. That is the good news story of the year. I love it. And his mum came out, and I don't know if you heard it on the broadcast, but she said, well done, kid. That's what his dad used to say. And immediately when she said that, he was crying and he got emotional. And it's just such a good news story. Winning injured with his shoulder as well. Just well done. He controlled that completely. He was slowly building it up throughout the race. And I knew he could do it. I knew it. I said he was my pick a winner. 3 times now a winner at this circuit. Brilliant. Was it 4? It's 4 now, isn't it?
3, I think. So he was fast at the beginning. Then he had the speeding penalty because, you can't go through a race without something happening to Denny Hamlin on pit road.
That's true.
Part of every week. But then came back to win. So wasn't the best race as a whole. It wasn't particularly exciting throughout, but good to see Denny get the win and for him to keep the win, because last time he had his kids in the car celebrating a victory at Pocono a couple of years ago, it got taken away for whatever that reason that was now. I can't remember, but good to see him have this one kept. So
just check my stats. Win number 3.
iPad. There we go.
Yes, but I've gone away with paper. I've joined the iPad revolution as commentary notes.
Calling you Jake.
Well, I only did it because I realised that I have so many notes. I'm spending about 500-600 quid a year on ink.
Pads.
Yeah, so I thought I'll buy an iPad, brand new one, because the technology's finally caught up with where I want it to be. Because when it's like this, I can actually still read the numbers. So I thought, I'll have that, but I'll print out still the track maps and the other bits I stick around the box. But my main notes will now be on here. And it's working quite well, actually. I quite enjoyed it as well. I mean, it's only week 1. But yeah, I've got my notes there. It's easy for NASCAR as well because there's such a great series. They give you, I can tell you, how many pages is this? Literally, this is what you get in a document. They give you 131 pages so far. Can you see? Hold that up. Can you see it? Where's the little thing? Where is it? There you go. Look.
Yeah.
131 pages of stats they give you. And it ranges from race results from the previous events, along with comments about what the cautions were and everything, alongside driver stats. So this is Eric. It's gone wrong. But you've got like Eric Jones on there as well as information, laps led stats, everything. So Ty Dillon's stats as well and everything. And all those little pages. Yeah, just fantastic. And I can't print out 38, 39 pages of driver stats per weekend. So yeah, I thought it's about time I had one. So yeah, I have had an iPad before, but it was a very old one. It's about 10 years old. So I've joined the 21st century, and I'm getting an Apple Pen so I can draw on it as well. So it makes sense. But I'm still paper for track maps and write down of information, everything. I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to get rid of that because I need to have that on my television, sort of dotted around the screen. But yeah, Jules, I don't think I've got any knots. It was quite. Yeah, apart from Daniel Dye.
Daniel, which we talked about at length, and Ocon, which we mentioned loosely in HOTS there. No, not anything else I can think of.
I'm gonna have to do. Yeah, go on. I'm gonna have to do a live voice note. You ready? Because I can't type before the end of the show. So if you want to be with me, I am still on the show. I'm live right now, but I'll get back to you in just a minute. I can't type while being on air because I've got too much going on in my head.
I guess it's kind of a knot, and Kobe touched on it in the news that, of course, we've lost Bahrain and Saudi, which means there's no F2 now until June.
They are talking about doing an event in April, aren't they? And the most likely situation of track that they'd go to would probably be Jerez. Makes more sense because if they time it right to after the MotoGP, the track's ready. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it kind of makes sense.
Which is first weekend of May off the top of my head.
Yeah. So they go there the week before track's ready.
And then go to Monaco from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Makes sense. Double up on tickets, or just run F2 and F3 with the Moto 3 and Moto 2. I've got 2 paddocks. Just run it. Do it. Add it on. You own the series now. Do what you like.
Run it after the MotoGP race. Clear all the. Right, we've had bikes. They're done. Now it's time for cars for the rest of the afternoon.
Yeah. I love that.
They've had Superbike on the same weekend as Supercars. Fair few times over the last couple of years.
It's possible. Let's do it.
And then Eurosport could have it, and it could be the FIA Super Racing weekend like they used to have back at the start of the noughties when they had touring cars and GP. I think I'm all not much knots to knot apart from the stuff that we've touched on already.
See, we've lost even our biggest. We've lost Danica Patrick, so it's like
we can't just throw her in now.
Yeah, it's really annoying, especially as she should have been on.
And I don't think Jack Villeneuve said anything particularly controversial at the weekend, so we can't use him as the new.
Annoyingly, he was actually quite good. I really enjoyed his punditry. I thought he made a lot of sense, and actually, he was understanding the new regulations really well, and he was explaining it really well as well. No, not.
We're done then.
You're done.
We're done.
Let's get out of here. Okay, taking a closer look at our upcoming schedule. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up. That's going to be 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Darlington Raceway. Monday, Grid Rising is at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be recapping O'Reilly and trucks at Darlington, plus other motorsport action. Please do continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you like what you saw tonight, you can send us a YouTube super chat to show your appreciation. We've now passed 1,700 subscribers. Please help us reach our next milestone of 2,000 subscribers. Hit the bell icon to get notifications so you'll always know when we go on the air. Follow all of our social media platforms and visit gridnetworktv.com. You can also take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Deshelle, Robin, David, Matthew, Crystal, and Nico, who invest each month in the Grid Network and help us keep on the air as well. And we encourage you to join this great group of people. Can't get my words out. And once we hit $500 per month, we can afford to send our team to the track more often and continue growing our media outlet. The link to all of this is in the video description below. And if you want to make a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board, and invest as much as you want. And consider buying your favourite on-air personality a cup of coffee, and I will thank you on the air. Well done to Kobe for getting through tonight as well. A proper trooper as well. So for Kobe Lambeth and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index, I'm Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.